Will Work for Patients, episode 23. What up, Chiro friends?
Thanks for tuning in for another episode of Will Work for Patients, a free advice podcast dedicated to help chiropractors get on purpose and grow their practices. Get ready to tune in and turn up the volume of your practice marketing. And now, turning up the volume on his mic, big-time chiropractic advocate and your host, here is Frank Sardella.
Well, thank you, Michelle, for that epic introduction. You make me seem so cool. I'm Frank Sardella, and I'm so happy to be with you here again today in our podcast show. This show is free for you to not only give you marketing help in your practice, but to keep you on purpose, to keep you pumped up, and to keep you going. And that's my commitment in this grassroots effort to make a chiropractic world. So welcome! Actually, welcome to my first outdoor broadcast, folks. I'm sitting on the patio of Starbucks somewhere in the beautiful and scenic Hudson River Valley of upstate New York on a beautiful, breezy Labor Day weekend. And while most people are on vacation, guess who I'm thinking about, guys? That's right, I'm thinking about you. Who are you? Well, do you know we practically have more students listening at this point than practicing docs? And you know, it's just fine with me. I like having the new blood. And though I'm exaggerating just a bit, I'm looking to go grassroots by hitting on the very beginning of the cycle and giving advice where it has never been given before. Of course, as confirmed by all you practicing docs out there that we've been surveying. So at the end of the last episode, which was only taped a day ago, I said I'd practically be doing one a day, and that we had a lot to talk about over the coming episodes. Well, I wasn't kidding then, nor am I now. We have so much to talk about, me and you, and I can't record fast enough. I have so much to share. Now, speaking of last episode, are you mad at me? Did you have some blinders on and only hear the word flu shot and become cross with me and stop listening? Well, I know that's not true, because if you did, you wouldn't be listening right now. Tell me, what did you get from Bad Habits, Good Patients? Did you use any of it? Do you at least look at things a little bit different? Well, I said in the last word what I had hoped you would get out of it, and I'm going to let that stand as is. But I truly hope you realize the rules to getting people to show up so you can talk to them are quite different from the rules once they're there. And I never claim to have the expertise to know what to do with them once they're there. That's your area, and I know you can do that. My job is to get them there. My job is to get you to know how to as well. My job is to get you there, right to where you can do it comfortably, where your self-placed, unknowing roadblocks are long since gone, and where you need to widen your front door for the volume which is broken loose. How about that for a goal? What do you say? All right. Onward and upward to today's content. Are you excited? I am. Would you believe me if I told you we had quite an episode today? Indeed, we do. Yep, quite an episode. This one is a different one than I've done in the past, and perhaps to which you have become accustomed as a listener. This one is going to be easy, because you don't have to practice it on anyone but yourself. In fact, I'm going to abstain from saying it has anything to do with using your imagination, because you should know right now, despite it seeming so at first, it is absolutely not. In fact, I'm going to use the word visualize quite a bit instead. You will only be looking at things that are quite real, I promise, even if they are in the future and haven't happened yet. So let's say we have some fun, huh? Today's episode is entitled Medicine is Finally Dead, and is a vastly different, if rebellious sounding title, but I swear it's not a war cry. In fact, it's not even a slight against medicine. I just figure the papers exaggerate in their headlines, and since we will be looking at the future today, I thought we'd start by taking a look at what we imagine the headlines might read. I like this one, don't you? Now, here is something interesting. You student listeners seem to have nothing but future ahead of you, don't you? Grades, graduation, association, practice life, everything, right? And those of you who have been in practice now even for just a month, it's a slightly different look, isn't it? Have you ever felt like you've run out of future? Does the runway seem smaller? Do you have one at all? Everything led up to the future until you started living it, and then it was no more. Sound familiar? So what's my point? How will this help me get more new patients? Well, there are some things I mentioned in previous episodes that you may not have known it at the time, but that were foreshadowing of this one. Remember on the top 10 list of roadblocks to your front door, I said something like random actions, no strategy? Well, strategy deals with future planning, doesn't it? And how about your strategy? It's great to get a strategy for getting people across the threshold, as I keep saying and promoting, but think bigger. It would be great to expand your practice and take care of thousands over your career, but think bigger. It would be great to change your whole community and even surrounding ones and make them all innately intelligent, so to speak, wouldn't it? Is that an expanded view? Well, how about think bigger? I mean it, bigger. What if we envisioned a future where chiropractic was the centralized idea that everyone operated on? And what if that was not on just a community level, but the world at large? How about if we created this chiropractic world I keep talking about every show, huh? Well, that is what we're going to talk about today. Now, don't jump off the episode yet. You are going to get something out of this you can use, I promise you. If you just stick with me a bit on this one, I assure you, I will cover where this fits in. Promise, okay? We good? So, what I'm about to do is change your future. Don't think I can? Keep listening. You didn't think you had much more future left? Did you maybe have too much future and it's too wide open and you don't know what to focus on? Allow me to give you one to cling onto and use to your advantage. Think about it. What if you had a future you were working toward right now? Now, I know you probably have some future things you're already working toward, so let me not take away from that. But what if you could have a future visualized completely and in living color on which you could base a tangible strategy? Would you not find value in that? Okay then, let's not delay. Today, I will take you on a journey into the future using your power to visualize, but I will perform the magic trick of making it tangible. So, we're going to totally envision a chiropractic world and define it. What would it look like? What would be changed exactly? And I mean exactly. Plus, we're going to envision your place in it. How will it directly benefit you? I mean details. What would it change? And how, working in the present, would it benefit you? And let's talk about strategy. How to strategize to make real, bona fide, meaningful practice growth occur. How can you, after listening to today's show, sit down and let her rip on a strategic plan and start right now? How would that be? And what if, since we never do it, I gave you a top 10 to boot? Would you like that? I thought so. So here we go again. No guests, nothing up my sleeve, no gimmicks, just you and me and the future. Yes! Top 10 list. What do you say we do the top 10 benefits of the downfall of medicine? I think that would be appropriate since we're going to visualize a chiropractic world, wouldn't it? These 10 things would start to give us a picture, wouldn't they? All right, I can't wait to get into this one, so here goes. Number 10, nothing more to argue about. Right? Are we just not arguing all the time? Medicine, non-medicine, alternative healthcare, whatever. It's just so many arguments. Aren't you just tired of arguing? There'd be nothing more to argue about. And the arguments we would have would be much more intelligent, because undoubtedly we'd still be having some kind of arguments. Number 9, no more commercials. I told you in the last episode how sick and tired of TV I am that I can't even watch it anymore because of the commercials. Illegal, outdated, uncool. That's what commercials would be in the future. Number 8, you know I had to include this one. Okay, this one's for me, you guys. WebMD would be obliterated from the internet. Yay! I win. My arch enemy, my nemesis, right? WebMD. It would be obliterated from the internet in the chiropractic world. Number 7, the end of epidemics, diseases, disorders. Because They were made up in the first place, weren't they, you guys, right? Number 6, way less marketing and promotion to do. Why do we have to market and promote so hard now? Why does it seem like such a difficult process? Well, in the chiropractic future, when medicine falls, we'll be doing way less marketing and promotion. Number 5, no AMA. The ACA will have long since surpassed the AMA, and the AMA would have gone belly up, bankrupt, whatever you want to call it, right? Can you imagine a world with no AMA? Unbelievable. Number 4, alternative medicine would not have a definition, right? There would be no alternative anymore. We would just be it. I'm going to let that one rest on its own. Number 3, you would be primary care physicians. That's one of my favorite things about this future vision, is you being a primary care physician. When somebody says, who's your family doctor? And they say, you. Imagine what that would mean to you. Imagine it for a minute. And I'm going to move on. Number 2, there would be plenty of money circulating, allocated for chiropractic care. Right, guys? How much money is being wasted on and spent and sponged off of by some of these larger, more oppressive groups that are not providing real solutions but making lifetime sick customers? We know this. And the number 1 benefit of the downfall of medicine, chiropractic would be in itself health insurance. And guys, if you think about that one, it already is. But everyone would know it. Can you imagine that? And that's going to lead us right into our episode content for today, because we're talking about really envisioning the future. Now, I know we quickly ran through that top 10 list, but even picturing those 10 things all at once, could you sit there for a minute and just imagine what the world would be like? Just any one of those things, what a different place this place would be. Okay. I told you we're going to envision a chiropractic world and we're going to define it. So let's do that. Let's be very thorough about it, you guys. Wouldn't it be worth our attention for just a minute or two to really, really define it? And when I say define, I don't mean just have a verbal definition of it. I mean, let's have a picture of it. Can you picture it? What does it look like? I think we got a little glimpse of that in the top 10 list, but let's look at from the public point of view. You know me. I like to get inside the head of the person I'm trying to convince, right? So let's look at it from the public, from the people who haven't been to your office. What does it look like to them? Well, they're not going to be snowed by these commercials. They're not going to be confused by news reports and the stuff they read on WebMD. What it looks like to the public is not confusion. What it looks like to the public is they know exactly what to do. For one, health insurance wouldn't exist, would it? It would be function insurance. And it wouldn't really be an insurance policy. It would basically be an allocation of money toward your lifetime chiropractic care. Everyone would be a lifetime patient, and they'd be paying for chiropractic care. Now, you probably would need catastrophic or whatever. We know that limbs still can be cut off or broken. So it will have its place. But I'm talking about as a dominant function in the society, gone, and chiropractic dominating. Look at a lot of conditions that could be prevented. We don't have to get into that, but health insurance definitely wouldn't exist the way it does now, suffice to say. Let's say we were to create it tomorrow, panic would occur. Right? Because if you're just going to rip it away and you haven't educated everybody, this is obviously an evolution that needs to happen. So we have to look at it as evolving to that, not just a revolution and we win and now everybody's in panic because they don't know what to do because they don't even know about us. But then again, over time, think about it. In our ideal chiropractic world, the innate intelligence, the autonomic nervous system, all these things would be taught in school, in health class and science class. And we would know a lot more about it. We would be looking at all those things in school. How about hospitals would have resident chiros and an acute chiro unit, or chiro in the ER? How about chiropractic paramedics? How about chiropractic ambulances? Can you guys imagine for a second what kind of world we're looking at here? Let's just do that. Now, write down what your exact picture is of the ideal chiropractic world. Really think about it and write it down. I'm actually going to recommend that you write this down as the first part of your strategic plan to build your place in this world. And that's what I really want to talk to you about next, is envisioning your place in this world we're talking about, in this ideal model chiropractic world. See, if we don't envision the ideal, guys, and we just envision fighting against the existing establishment, for lack of a better word, then we're never going to create the ideal. So why don't we start with that? We already know what ideal health is, and we can create it in individuals, and we have. All of us working together as a team, we've done that. You do it every day with every treatment plan you can complete, actually with every adjustment that you give. You do that. So what if we took that ideal and we expanded it from one person to nearly 7 billion people and said, what would be the sum total or the aggregate of that? And now break it back down to what your place is in that world. So one of the things you're going to need to do is calculate the size of your practice that's required. Now, you can calculate exactly what your responsibility is where you are right now. Take a view of what your community is within a radius around your office that you feel is a reasonable distance. Find out the exact population of that area. And then I want you to divide it by the number of chiropractors who practice within that area, within that region. And the resultant number is your responsibility. Now that's going to vary from place to place, so some of you are saddled with more responsibility than others. If you're in Sundance, Wyoming, you may have more horses to adjust than people, but you're going to know what your zone of responsibility is depending on what area of the world you select to practice in. So calculate the size of the practice really required, but let's look at the ideal world. If we were in that ideal, there are going to be a lot more chiropractors. So right now, if you were to make that calculation, the number is going to be something you're going to say, there's no way I can handle that with 6 associates and all of us doing, 300 to 400 visits apiece a week. Just not going to work, right? Well, that's what we're saddled with right now. But in that world, you're going to have a lot more colleges are going to be chiropractic colleges, aren't they? You're going to have a lot more people becoming chiropractors. So you have to think of that too. So don't freak out so much when you calculate it, but while we're building it, you may want to realize that you might want to reach out and take care of more people than you had previously planned. No more tactics to get in and screen places, guys, in this ideal world. Now I'm thinking about you. You don't really have to use tactics to get into a company or to get into your local supermarket or wherever you want to go to screen people and get them into your practice. Because it's going to be so widely accepted, of course they're going to let you come there. It'll be a given. You could hang out a shingle in this ideal world, and people would know from birth to come to you, just like they know now that they go to their medical doctor when they don't feel good. And guess what? You would become the primary care physician. Imagine that for yourself. Imagine someone saying, in answer to the question, who's your family doctor? And they say your name. Now, I already say that about my chiropractor, and I'm sure there are plenty of people like me, but there aren't enough of us, let's face it. We could, again, go on, but the next thing I'd like you to do is sit down and figure out, sort of strategically envisioning what your ideal situation would look like. If it was an ideal world, and you didn't have any of the barriers you have now, what would you have? And that's what you really need to figure out, envision, and put down on a piece of paper and decide that that's what you want and that you can have that, okay? Moving on from that, though, now we talk about strategy, how to strategize the correct size practice to meet all of that and the correct things within your practice. You may discover in this exercise that there are things you never even thought of that should be part of your practice that aren't. So in envisioning the ideal, you plan for the actual outcome and the right volume. So the first thing you have to do is figure out, okay, well, I previously wanted to be at 150 visits, but now I see I have to be up around 400 or 500. Really plan that out. And then you organize with a method, a flow, and a little bit of know-how in promoting, marketing, running the practice, sales closing techniques for closing those treatment plans. after envisioning and planning, you need to sort of organize a sequence. Then, on top of that, you have to have some know-how on how to really push it. And part of keeping that sequence moving, the thing that drives you, is marketing. And marketing is something that you need to understand. Now, it's not difficult to understand. You just need to understand some simplicities about marketing. You don't need a bunch of checklists and scripts and all that other kind of jazz. All you need is a method and a concept of how people think and how to convince them of X, Y, and Z. Even with all of that, there's one more thing that you need. And I mentioned this in the last podcast episode, and I'm going to mention it again now. And that was the show that I did entitled When Nothing Seems to Work, ... Because that show was about persistence. And definitely here, with you envisioning a chiropractic world, and you envisioning your place in it, and you envisioning exactly what your practice is going to be like, organizing it, putting a method there and a flow, and getting some know-how on it, that you then, even after all that, have to persist until it's done, no matter what it takes, and know that it will work, and know if it's not working, it takes longer than you thought. And insist that it gets done no matter what barriers you're faced with, including people who are saying it can't be done, it's not working. And I don't care who those people are and how close they are to you. Whether a staff member or a family member, it doesn't matter, because you know this will work. And you know that if you continue to do it, and that the only people in history who have ever made it were able to persist through that interference, that's when you can create your ideal practice in an ideal chiropractic world. That's what I wanted to get through to you today. Now, recap. You need to first envision, what does a chiropractic world look like to you, and what does it look like to the public? And envision all of the things about it. Really get a clear, full, vivid 3D picture of it. How health insurance wouldn't exist anymore, and it'd be function insurance, and it would only be catastrophic insurance. And former solutions would be gone. These solutions that don't work would be gone. And that making that occur too quickly may create panic, but over time, if this is an ideal world, it's taught in school. It's going to give new meaning to health. Hospitals having resident chiros and a chiro department, and chiro in the ER, chiro paramedics, chiro ambulances, all those things. Really define it, establish it, get a picture of it, write it down, and then envision your place in it. Calculate the size of the practice required to take your portion of the responsibility of that population. Don't worry about tactics, because you'll be hanging out a shingle and people would know from birth to come to you, and you'd be a primary care physician. So in your plan now, you're now narrowing it down to you within that ideal chiropractic world, and an ideal chiropractic community, ideal chiropractic practice, and an ideal chiropractic you. Make sure you note all those down. Then you talk about strategy. Strategize the correct size practice from what you just figured out. You envision the ideal plan for actual outcome and the right volume, but organize with a method and a flow, and get some know-how. Consult with somebody who knows how to market, and persist until it's done, no matter what it takes. And I really mean that, and far beyond even when you think it's not working. And that's how we get the job done. Now for the last word. Who gets the last word? I do. After all, it's my show. What should we take away from today's podcast? If anything, I sincerely hope that you take to heart one thing. That if you can visualize the bigger picture, you'll know exactly what to do. Goals are important, and we all somehow inherently know that. But why do we not set them or stray from them when we do? It's not a strong enough, vivid enough, detailed enough picture visualized continuously, coupled with a lack of clearly defined and organized strategy, the result being random activity and guesswork. Reverse this process, and you have your answer. The bigger picture, a bigger idea, vividly and in fine detail, specifically strategize the finest details, and then follow and persist no matter what. And it's done. In your quarter and for all. Can you imagine what would happen if all of us did this? And that is your chiropractic world personified and come true. Hey, wouldn't it be amazing if we look back on this moment and say this is where it all changed? Will today's episode be the turning point of the game? I would love for you to have that look back moment, and I would love to be there to experience it together with you. Hey, I wasn't kidding when I said practically one a day as far as new episodes are concerned. So try to keep up, huh? We have more about the true screening process and lifetime patient ladder for sure, but I also have some new blockbuster guests lined up too. Don't miss an episode or you might miss out on the one that changes everything. Why? Look, guys, I will work for patients, so will you? Let's do this, huh? ScreeningExperts.com or willworkforpatients.com. Go to the bottom, find free resources, especially use that YouTube channel. There are videos there that you can embed on your website and in your social media. And if you would like a free copy of the ebook, How to Motivate, Hire, and Pay Chiropractic Marketing Assistants, I would be more than happy to send you a copy with my compliments. Go to screeningexperts.com, fill in your name and email address, and I will send one right out to you, I promise. Listen, subscribe, and download. willworkforpatients.com also has all of the information on that. It has all of our social media. It's a very informative website. Remember, we're in audio format, so you can tune in anywhere. How about on that next long drive that you're taking to go do CE one weekend or on the plane? Remember, this is a grassroots effort to make a chiropractic world like we all want. So let's make every episode count, huh? I know I can count on you. So, my friends, we've come to the end of a futuristic episode. Thanks so much for tuning in. On behalf of myself, our announcer Michelle, and the rest of the Screening Experts crew, I thank you so very much for joining us, and we'll see you soon for yet another super future-changing episode of Will Work for Patients. So long.
Be sure to subscribe and share. Will Work for Patients has been brought to you courtesy of Screening Experts, bringing unscripted simplicity to chiropractic marketing complexity. Today's episode, copyright Screening Experts LLC, musical score composed and arranged by Frank Sardella ASCAP. For more information, visit screeningexperts.com.